Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cedarville Stories podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein, and it's the Christmas season and a great time to re-air my conversation with Dr. Trent Rogers, the Dean of the School of Biblical and Theological Studies at Cedarville University, on this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas version of the Cedarville Stories podcast with Dr. Trent Rogers. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cedarville Stories podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein, and joining me today is Dr. Trent Rogers, the Dean of the School of Biblical and Theological Studies at Cedarville University. I think some of you may be surprised by our conversation today, so I'm really looking forward to talking with Trent and sharing his story with you. It's amazing. Trent earned his undergraduate degree in ancient and classical Greek language and literature from Wabash College in Indiana, and he later received a Master of Divinity degree from Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, which is located just north of Chicago. Trent's PhD is in New Testament from Loyola of Chicago, and he definitely has a Chicago flavor to his story. He's been on the faculty at Cedarville for 6 years, serving as assistant professor of New Testament and Greek before accepting his current role a few years ago. Prior to coming to Cedarville, he was a pastor of adult ministries at Grace Baptist Church in Cedarville. Let me welcome Trent Rogers to this week's Cedarville Stories podcast. Great to have you, Trent.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've listened to a number of them. It's interesting to be on the other side here.
So the question is, will you listen to yours?
Oh, I hate listening to myself. So my wife will listen to it.
Your wife and your family, no doubt about it. So I want to begin the program by talking about your education, because I have to believe that someone who pursues a degree in ancient and classical Greek language and literature has a definite idea of what he's going to do for a living. Was that the case for you?
Yes, that was the case. I get asked the question sometimes, why did I go to Wabash and why did I choose that topic area? Why I went to Wabash was really for the classics department, because I had this vision. I was going into ministry. It helped that my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was like 30 minutes away from the college.
Oh, that's why you went there.
That was a big factor. And my grandfather, he really was supportive of that idea, wanted to help me with college as well. So, I went there with the goal of being able to read the New Testament in the original language. I grew up in a small SBC country church. Okay. And there was a lot of reference to Greek, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do this right, and for ministry training, I'm going to learn the original languages. Yeah.
So interesting, you decided to go to a secular institution to learn that. Why?
Yeah. So I really didn't know about Cedarville. I think had I known about Cedarville, I probably would have come here. But it was, that was back in the day where you didn't know about schools as much, just like regional schools really. And Wabash was a close school, had a great reputation. Yeah. And my grandfather did have an influence on that, because he really wanted me to get a liberal arts education. Yeah. And to his mind, that probably entailed a secular liberal arts education.
Okay. And so for our listeners, you grew up in Lafayette, Indiana. So how far is Lafayette to Wabash?
Yeah, so technically I grew up in a cornfield by Frankfort, but Lafayette, Frankfort, Crawfordsville, where Wabash is located, they're all about 20 minutes apart.
So cornfields, you feel comfortable here in Cedarville?
I do, yeah. So actually going to Chicago for my education was a big transition for me.
Culture shock.
Yes, it was.
Oh my goodness. So you went to Wabash with the mindset ministry is where you're going to end up. When did you realize that ministry was that calling for you? When did God put that in your heart?
It was quite a bit younger. I became a Christian around 9. Okay. And then 11 or 12, really, I felt a call to ministry. And really, it's just been a consistent trajectory towards ministry ever since then. Growing up in a smaller country church, when you say you feel a call to ministry, it's one of two things. Either you're going to be a foreign missionary or you're going to be a senior pastor. Right. I haven't served in either of those roles. But like you mentioned, I served as pastor for adult ministries for several years.
So you came to faith at a young age. Tell us the backstory of how you came to faith in Jesus, and then a follower of Jesus, because I think there's two different things.
Yeah. So, like many people who grew up in the church, I don't remember a time where I would deny the reality of Jesus, where I would deny sin. Yeah. But also, like many of us who grew up in church, there's a time where I can remember really owning those ideas as my own, really coming under the conviction of my own personal sin, and recognizing Jesus as the sacrifice for my sins. And for me, that was around the age of 9. Okay. My father brought home a devotional book that he read to me. It was like a 30-day devotional book. And I don't know if it was like midway through day 12 or 15, somewhere in there, there was a call for repentance. And when he read that question, I was like, I believe that. I want to confess that. Yeah. So actually, it was a really sweet time. My dad prayed with me at the age of 9 to receive Christ.
Let's fast forward your story. So we're going to go from a 9-year-old new Christ follower to your journey into the ministry. So you had the opportunity to join Grace Baptist Church in Cedarville, and at that time, in our conversation last week, you wrote down, I think they gave you a checklist of opportunities where you could work. Yeah. And you put as your least favorite, which was one that you didn't want to do, was college ministry. Talk to us about that. Yeah. So we were in Chicago, my wife and I, and my son at the time. Didn't have the rest of our family yet. But I filled out this application probably a little too hastily. And they had 6 areas of adult ministries. Okay. And you were to rank them from 1 to 6, 6 being the lowest. And I put ministry to college students as the lowest. And I don't know if it's just my ignorance or I was so close in age to them in some ways that I didn't have a real interest in that. About 2 weeks into my tenure at Grace, our college ministry volunteer said, look, I'm burnt out. I need to step away. And so I inherited college ministry. So I did so probably a little reluctantly at first, but God just changed my heart over those next 5 years. And it changed my heart not just for that age group, but also to see the profound ministry that Cedarville University had on these students' lives. Yeah. So for them, I mean, seeing them as freshmen and then the transformation by the time they graduated as seniors, it was remarkable. So speak to, God's humor and putting you actually now in college ministry, really day to day. How did he change your heart and mind? What practical, actual events or situations occurred? Yeah. So I had no intentions of being an academic ministry, and I never would have had a vision for that had it not been that ministry experience at Grace Baptist Church. Because one of the things I started to see is these college students, they're starting to make their own decisions, and they're hungry for direction. Yeah. They have questions, but they're eager to obey, and they're eager to receive God's word and live that out. And it was just really encouraging to see what God was doing in the hearts of the students at that particular age in their life. And then to be able to see them now, 10, 15 years down the road, to see the kinds of things that God continues to do in their lives. How long were you in that role? And as you think back, I mean, you may have just answered it right there, but when you think back to your time with those students, what brings you great satisfaction knowing that the Lord put you in that opportunity? Yeah, so I was in that role for 5 years. Okay. But those were incredibly formative 5 years. For you or the students, or both? I think probably for me more than the students. Yeah. Because for me, that was my first full-time professional ministry thing that I'd been training for. Okay. So your first role in your field is formative. Sure. And I have a really good friend, Byron Shearer, who always says that Grace Baptist Church makes pastors. Mm-hmm. And that was true in my life. They certainly ministered to me and formed me into a pastor. The second part of your question was, what's most encouraging? Yeah. I think what's most encouraging is to see those incremental decisions that students are making in their early 20s, and to see how that sets them on a trajectory of a lifetime of faithfulness. Yeah.
And it's just so encouraging to see past graduates now that when they come back, maybe it's for homecoming or just passing through town, to see what God continues to do in their lives.
Are you surprised God called you into college ministry, and how much joy does that bring you?
Oh yeah, I am surprised. And people don't believe that sometimes when I say, like, no, I came to Cedarville, the town of Cedarville, with no intention of working at the university.
Right.
That really was never my trajectory. It's always been local church. But maybe it's like you say, God's sense of humor, or I think my ministry experience really enables me to function in the role that I have in the School of Biblical and Theological Studies.
And let's go there. So your time at Grace Baptist truly paved the way and prepared you for what you're doing today. Not only just teaching, but actually leading the School of Biblical and Theological Studies. Trent, what is your leadership style and your vision for your school?
My leadership style.
Are you a rigid kind of guy?
Well, I mean,
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm rigid. But when it comes to vision and pursuing a goal, I have an athletic background, so I think my default is probably to be aggressive towards the accomplishing a goal.
Okay.
But I think internally, I try to care for our people. And I think that's that pastoral training and mindset. I hope that I treat everyone in our school with a pastor's heart, even though we're not the local church.
Right.
But that I have a pastor's heart towards them.
You mentioned in our conversation that you believe the most important trait of a leader is, and I quote you, to believe in the mission more strongly than anyone else. How do you embody that belief within your faculty? How do you show it?
Yeah, I do think that is like the first step. If you don't believe in the vision, if you don't know what that vision is, and you don't believe in that with great strength, and you're willing to persevere in accomplishing that vision, I don't think you can lead. And I hope that I model that for our people by explicitly casting a vision, by living it out, and by encouraging them and equipping them to help fulfill that mission in their classrooms as well.
So you've been doing it 4 years. How have you seen the school mature under your leadership and with the influx of new faculty as well?
Yeah, one of the things about an academic institution is that it's always changing, right? I mean, there's a 4-year reset with students.
That's right.
And there's really a short memory that students have. But then there's also turnover and change within a faculty and staff as well.
Yeah.
And with our growth, that's been expansion. So Cedarville University is constantly changing in some ways. And I've seen our faculty change. Now, I got to follow a great leader. So I served for 2 years as assistant dean under Jason Lee, and then for the last 4 years as dean. So the vision was there. I mean, if you know Jason Lee, you know he's got great vision. He's got a great vision for the church and for Cedarville's role in serving the church. So I didn't really have to refine vision as much. In many ways, what we've been doing is perfecting our curriculum, making sure that we're really training our students with excellence. I think we've tried to focus on a camaraderie within our faculty. We want to have a vision that we're all rowing in the same direction, and we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we're there to support one another in accomplishing that goal.
You mentioned curriculum, and I want to go there, but one side note on Jason Lee. He's a quality young man. Only one flaw, that he can't get over this Alabama stuff, and I think he's embarrassed that they can't beat Michigan.
That could be one of his things, but we'll see. Maybe he was just a Nick Saban fan, and maybe now he'll be some other school. I doubt it, though.
I doubt it. Not Jason. So let's go back to curriculum. That's something that's always changing. There's always new programs. There's sometimes programs going away. Yep. What are some of the new programs in the School of Biblical and Theological Studies, whether it's at the undergraduate level or the graduate level, that really are exciting and that people should hear about?
So I'm going to give you 30 seconds on what we offer. So we have an undergraduate, we have 2 programs of study. We have a 4-year biblical studies degree. It's got a robust Bible and theology core, and then a ministry concentration. So somebody that's going into youth and family ministries might choose that as a concentration, or missions, or some other ministry area. And then we've got a 3+2, so 3-year biblical studies accelerated, followed by a 2-year MDiv. And basically what we've done is we've eliminated the overlap that existed historically between the undergrad and grad portions there. We've eliminated that by teaching the course really well one time, instead of making a student take it 2 or 3 times. And by doing that, we've saved students time and money. We've gotten that same great training, but we're getting them into ministry roles more quickly. So we've got those residential things, but then we've also expanded to do online training at the graduate level. So we're launching actually now Master of Arts and Theological Studies programs, and then they're going to have some areas of concentration. Now, this is a space that we've been very successful in for about a decade now through our Masters of Ministry programs and our Masters of Arts programs. But I really think this MATS degree is going to serve a lot of students really well. It's a way for us to serve students and churches with excellence.
Trent, you just mentioned the MATS. I know Cedarville has had a Master of Divinity program for 7 years. What prompted Cedarville to begin offering the MATS program?
That's a great question. The MDiv is a residential program. It's a growing program for us, and it's something that we're seeing students really formed by. We wanted a way to extend that training to people who might not be able to relocate to Cedarville. So we've been in the online graduate theological space for a number of years, and we just wanted to see if we could do that better. And there's actually been churches and other ministries that have reached out to us and said, hey, we're doing some training, but we want our people to get their Bible and theology from Cedarville.
Right.
So when we have ministries reach out like that, we want to make sure that we meet that need.
So who is this program for, and what sets this program apart from other programs?
Yeah, so there are a number of different kinds of students that will come to that program, and we've tried to design it to be customizable to a student's needs. So it's a 36-hour program. It has a really strong core. So there are 5 classes that form the core of the Bible and theology training, and then they'll have a track in their area of ministry specialization. So worship and theology is a track. Biblical leadership is a track. Biblical counseling is a track. It's a growing field and a real demand from our students. And then theological studies is a track. Within that theological studies, we also have an opportunity to partner with some churches that are doing some amazing in-house training. We're also some parachurch ministries as well. But we've had churches that have said, look, we're doing a lot of training in maybe the area of church planning, but Cedarville is really well equipped to do some of that training in Bible and theology. So we've actually embedded into that 36-hour training a recognition of some of the training that a church is doing in-house and can recognize that towards their credit.
And you said this earlier, but to me, it's a validation of what you are doing in your program. And I should say even across the campus, other programs, but when you have churches coming to you asking for your students, that has to be a validation that you're doing something right.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a real encouragement. I mean, these are people who love Cedarville, and they love what's going on in our school in particular. And I think this program is a reflection of that. I think we've got an excellent program design. We have exceptional faculty that are invested in this. A lot of full-time faculty are actually carrying this load because they want to see these students trained really, really well. And I'm really excited about how this is going to help shape pastors, other ministry leaders, and churches.
So let's go back to, you mentioned reducing the overlap, yes. 3+2. Does that cheapen education for our future students?
I think it eliminates the frustration that was inherent in the historic practice of a 4-year undergrad and a 3-year MDiv. So somebody like me who studied at a secular institution, when I went to do my MDiv, I'd never been taught hermeneutics. And I was soaking everything in.
Yeah.
But then students who came from Cedarville, I mean, they'd already been taught hermeneutics. They'd already been taught a lot of these subjects. So their first year or year and a half was review. And when you're just reviewing in a classroom and you're paying a lot of money to be there, that leads to frustration.
Yeah, because it's really wasted money spent.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So with Cedarville's graduate programs in your school, how does that compare to an education that one would get at a seminary? Because old school, at least, seminary is where you go to become a pastor, not an undergrad, but you can make that happen here at Cedarville.
That's right. So I think seminary versus graduate school is predominantly just in name only.
Okay.
So for us, what does it mean to be a part of the graduate programs within our School of Biblical and Theological Studies? It's ministry training. We're focused on raising up the next generation of pastors, ministry leaders, missionaries, things that you would think that a seminary would do. So I think really it's just a naming difference.
Okay. So really nothing substantial. You'll get the same quality education here as you can at a seminary.
I would disagree with that. You will get a better quality education here than you will at any seminary I'm aware of. We've got a world-class faculty. They are experts in their field. They're committed churchmen, and they're committed to discipling students. So I think our faculty are exceptional. I think our program, our curriculum design is better than anything I'm aware of. That we are committed to this robust core of Bible and theology. You're going to get far more training in biblical and theological studies and better training than you will at any other MDiv program. And the other thing is we have such a great network of churches that want to invest in Cedarville students. I mean, I get emails every week from people saying, send us your students.
Right.
We'll provide a residency. We'll take care of them. We'll help develop them into pastors. And I love that about Cedarville.
And that speaks to the quality.
It does, yeah.
All the way around. So let me take a sidestep from the podcast and talk to our listeners. So if you know of a student who wants that kind of education, a biblical studies education, undergraduate level or graduate level, I really encourage you to visit Cedarville University's website. That's at cedarville.edu and learn more. And we hope to see you on campus at some point. So it's definitely worth your time to look.
Mark, well, we're talking about some of the quality of the product.
Yeah.
Just make an incidental comment last week. So last week we had one of our MDiv students preach in the pulpit of my local church.
Right.
So I sat under his teaching. And then Monday in chapel, we had an MDiv student preaching in chapel. So I got to sit under his teaching. And then that week as well, I got asked to serve on 2 ordination councils for 2 of our recent graduates. And just that kind of thing is, it happens so regularly. It's just part of what I expect. But it's a really sweet thing to be involved in sitting under the teaching of some of my students and then being able to help them pursue ordination in their churches.
So if you ever got discouraged in your role, Trent, I mean, being in those opportunities has to encourage your soul.
Yeah, you have to keep your eye on the goal and the mission and love for students. There will always be discouragements in leadership. But things like that, I mean, that's just so encouraging to see the students that are, and what God is doing through them. Yeah. And I think of the blessing, I think of that church member that's sitting under the ministry of our graduates.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly encouraging.
That's a kingdom impact.
That's right.
So let's shift our focus for the remaining minutes of the podcast to a more personal topic, and that is on sports and powerlifting. I know something about sports, but nothing about powerlifting, probably to your surprise. Don't laugh, Trent. But in 2008, you set a world record for powerlifting by bench pressing 670 pounds at the Iron House Classic. How in the world do you go about, first of all, training to be able to accomplish that feat? Because when I think of 670 pounds, I did the math. That's 4 of me. How did you do that? How did you prepare for that?
So how I got into powerlifting is kind of an interesting story because in high school, I was training for sports. When I got to college, I decided.
Were you a wrestler and football player?
Yes.
Okay.
And track of all things.
Shot put.
Hurdles.
Don't say sprinter.
Hurdles. Don't laugh though, Mark. You told me not to laugh. I actually ran hurdles.
I bet you were good.
I did. I did sprint. I mean, I started track because the football coach was a track coach, and he said, "Well, you got to run track so you're in shape for football." So
yeah, that makes sense.
So when I got to college, I decided I wanted to see my girlfriend each weekend, which turned out well. Again, we're married.
How long have you been married?
17 years. I should know. I know the date.
It looked like a question there.
So, I don't always remember how many years, but I know our anniversary. I decided, like, what am I going to do to stay active? Like, so what are the kind of things what's available to me? I said, well, let's do powerlifting, because I'd always been successful with those lifts. So took up powerlifting, and it worked out well. So, I mean, one of the things I did is I read everything. I mean, you think about exercise journals, technical articles. I just read everything. I would read popular level things and highly technical things. Some of it I didn't understand in its entirety. Yeah. But that helped me to develop a training regimen and a training mindset. So I was able to be successful in it.
So you don't lift 670 pounds 1 week after you thought about it. So how long did it take you to prepare and to get up to lifting that much weight? So
powerlifting involves three lifts. So the squat, the bench, and the deadlift,
right?
Which is different than Olympic lifting, obviously. Okay. I trained for a couple of years. I trained for a year before I did my first competition.
Okay.
And then I started looking at what records are out there.
And that's where your competitive streak came in.
That's right. That's right. Because, I mean, if you're going to do something, you might as well win it, right? And so I hate losing. And I know that's probably a character flaw. No. But I hate it very passionately.
Okay.
So if I'm going to do something, like I'm going to do something I'm going to win.
Right. Why else do it? Why else do it?
I agree. But like, that's why I don't do recreational sports at all, because I want to win. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to train for it. And I don't have time to train for recreational sports. So I started training and started looking at what records were there. And so I set 3 records. The first one was, I can't remember. I think it was 640 at a lower weight class, and then 670 and then 700 were 3 records, but they were different weight classes.
Okay.
At that time. So I think before I set my first record, I trained specifically in powerlifting for probably 2.5, 3 years.
Okay. Do any of those records still hold today?
I have no clue.
Then we'll say they do.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just decided I wasn't going to live and check in on records, so I have never checked if any of them still hold.
What year did you set the record for bench pressing? 2008, right?
Sounds good.
Wait, you don't even know your anniversary. So.
That's right.
So why am I asking that
dates
question?
Aren't my thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I'll check it up. And so for our listeners, I will put a link in the show notes so you can watch Trent lift the 670 pounds. Which I might add, as I looked at it, it took 4 people to lift the bar off the rack to give to you to lift your one time.
Well, they want to be safe, right?
Yeah.
So
that's just perspective, though, Trent. Yeah. I mean, you could do something once, which took them 4 people to do. So that's pretty impressive. So you also told me that of your interest in powerlifting also provided you an opportunity to work at a fitness center in Chicago while you were attending TEDS. For context purposes, and this is, I thought, kind of comical, you applied for a position to fold towels.
That's right.
That's really a good job. And you didn't get that job, but you were hired to be a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So let me ask, why did you want to fold towels?
So I graduated from Wabash. My wife and I got married 2 weeks later. She did her first 2 years at University of Indianapolis and then transferred to Trinity to finish her undergrad while I did my MDiv. We had to figure out, like, how are we going to afford this? We're both in school. And she's like an Olympic level gymnast. So she can go into any Olympic or any gymnastics gym and get a job. And she did. So she called one gym that was nearby and she got a job right away. Wow. I was like, well, how am I going to get a job? I was like, well, I'll look at Trinity's job board. And there was one for folding towels at a sports performance gym. So I walked into this interview and I thought, well, I don't know that I have a skill or something I can say like I'm great at this, but I put everything I'd done with powerlifting down because of the environment.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And so, my future boss showed up late to the interview. So I'm like, okay, I'm not getting this job. And his first lines were he introduced himself. He said, have you ever been a personal trainer? I'm like, no, I have not. And then he started asking me questions on training methodology.
Yeah.
And I was able to answer all of those, again, just because I'd done a lot of reading in this area. Read. And so there was a little process there that I transitioned into becoming a personal trainer.
How long did you have that role?
So my time at TEDS, when I served in that role, when I was at Loyola for my PhD, because it was a funded role, I couldn't do outside employment.
For our listeners of this podcast who follow Chicago sports team, which I grew up living in Southwest Michigan, I grew up a Chicago Bulls fan. Okay. You had the opportunity to work with at least two pro athletes that I know of, Luol Deng from the Chicago Bulls and Devin Hester of the Chicago Bears, who's now in the NFL Hall of Fame. What was your role with these guys? How did you work with these guys? Because these are world-class athletes. What did you do with them?
Yeah, I mean, they're world-class athletes, but the human body is still in some ways the human body. So, I mean, there are certainly things that you need to be aware of with different body types. Okay. But at the same time, what they're coming for in the gym is to enhance their performance on the court or on the field.
Correct.
So you design a workout program that has their sports performance as the target. Like, nobody really cares how much one of those people bench presses or squats or any of those things. No. Those lifts serve the function to enhance their athletic performance. So you keep that in mind the whole time. I mean, I also was actually training at this gym when there was the NFL lockout.
Really?
So during that summer, and if you remember back during the lockout, when that contract was signed, everybody knew that they went to work the next day. So they had to be in amazing shape, but they couldn't use their team's training facilities.
Right. They're locked out.
So we were slammed that summer in particular, just because they needed to be ready to go, but they didn't have access to their training facilities.
Did you have a favorite athlete or two that you really got close to?
The two you mentioned, in part because they were so consistent. I liked working with the D linemen. This is like, those are the guys that love to be in a squat rack, that love to do sled drags. And Tommy Harris, I probably got close to. He was a defensive lineman for the Bears. Just an incredible athlete as well.
And for our listeners, I just, again, being a Bulls fan, I'm really impressed by what you did there, especially when I think of Luol Deng. I mean, he was a first round draft choice of the Bulls. I think 7th overall. Yeah. And he could really play. How did you see yourself helping him? Or how did you help him?
Yeah. So at that gym, we were a team, right? So we had several people that were helping make sure his training was on point for his goals. But I think one of the areas that I can help any athlete is technique. Okay. You do not want an athlete to get injured. You don't want them to get injured on the field. So you want to do physical preparedness for the field, but you also don't want them to get injured off the field. Like, that's like a worst case scenario. So ensuring proper technique and ensuring that a program is designed for their performance. Those are just key sports performance elements.
Did you feel like you had to earn their confidence and trust, or was that a given because you were employed by that fitness center?
I never felt like I had to earn their respect. They were in my world, right? We were in a gym,
right?
So in that arena, that was my world. So I was never. I think people in the sports performance world, especially dealing with pro athletes, when they start treating them like pro athletes, they've lost their ability to help them be better. Many of these pro athletes, they grow up, fighting for a position on a team,
right,
fighting to be the best,
right,
and then they get all pro status or something like that, or they go to a Pro Bowl or something. And then people start treating them with velvet gloves. And the pro athletes need to be made fun of just like the rest of us, right? So,
and we've done a good job of that today. Let's land this plane. I have a few more questions, and then we'll call it a day. But given that your faith in Jesus is central to who you are, how are you able to utilize your athletic training work opportunities, including with you all Dang and Devin Hester, to share the gospel of Jesus, but then also just to minister to the athletes? Because as you said, they need to be ministered just like anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's right. Everybody is equally in need of the gospel message, right? So I remember I had an evangelism class at TEDS, like most programs have an evangelism class. And some of the students came in and were like, well, with whom am I going to share the gospel? And I'm like, this is what I do all day. Like, this is every day. There's just such an opportunity to shine a light for Christ and to explicitly articulate the gospel to people, some people who never heard it before.
Right.
It was an amazing opportunity. I'm so thankful for that time that I had seeing a new client every hour, and many of them consistently throughout the week. When you're training some of these businessmen, you spend 4 hours a week one-on-one with them, and they might not spend 4 hours one-on-one with anybody else in their whole life like that on a weekly basis. And that was just a really sweet time. I had a lot of opportunities for ministry to believers, but also to share the gospel with those who might never have heard it.
I think it's really exciting to realize, and it took me a long time in my life to realize that evangelism isn't something you do. It's segmented. It's life.
Yeah.
And so how you merge life and ministry together to build into someone's life, whether they're going through a good time, hard time, that's really exciting to me.
Yeah. And so, I pray every day for evangelistic opportunities, but also it has to flow out of who you are.
It does.
Like when I see somebody in that training environment, and if I see them rightly, I see them desperately in need of Jesus. And if I'm going to be faithful and I'm going to love them well, I'm going to proclaim to them the message of the gospel that God's given me to proclaim. So I do think we need to be intentional, but it also has to be who we are. And this is the most important thing to me. It's the most important thing in the world. And this is that person's most important need.
Yeah. Well said. So let me bring our conversation full circle and finish with this question. For someone who didn't want to serve in college ministry, like you didn't want, Trent, why did you accept the opportunity to join Cedarville's faculty and devote this part of your life in this ministry?
Yeah. The short answer, God changed my heart so that I could see the need that students have to be formed and to see that Cedarville was a place where that was happening. So in our school, we want to train students in the scriptures for their Christian lives and for their ministries. And I get an opportunity to do that day in and day out. And I get to help the faculty do that as well. And I can't imagine trading that for anything. It's just it's an incredible privilege, and it's a joy to serve here. It's a joy to serve when we've got amazing faculty, and we've got really good leadership as well.
Yeah. Trent, I've really enjoyed our time together. I've loved the seriousness, the laughter. Thanks for making fun of me. But thanks mostly for being willing to share your story on the podcast. And again, for those listening, if you are really interested and serious about learning about Jesus, growing deeper in your spiritual journey with him, whether you're a high school student or a college student wanting to get a master's degree from a biblical perspective or a biblical course, you really need to look at Cedarville. And I encourage you to go to cedarville.edu and learn more. So, Trent, thanks for joining me this week on the podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Cedarville Stories podcast, brought to you by Cedarville University. To learn more about Cedarville University, visit our website at cedarville.edu. And be sure to come back next week when we'll share another Cedarville story for God's glory.